Tim, are you on the line yet?
I am, and we are recording. So
Perfect.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's Harris Real Estate University Superstar interview. We're going to give everyone a couple more minutes to log on and dial in. I know today's guests are already on the call. So just a reminder, kind of revamping what Julie just said, past Superstar interviews are available on the blog, realestateinsidernews.com. You can go there anytime, click on the Superstar button, and then download and listen to any of the previous interviews, and they go back, I think, now like 3 years. So the Superstar interviews are Harris Real Estate University's way of giving back to the real estate industry. So be sure to check out all the previous interviews. We've got, I think now we've interviewed the number one, I'm going to guess we've interviewed the top agent from pretty much all the top brands in the country. A lot of those agents are also students of Harris Real Estate University, number one RE/MAX agent, number one Keller Williams agent, Century 21 agent, William E. Wood agent, Real Living agent. I'm just going off the top of my head. But in any event, all their interviews are on the blog, and I'll tell you one of the things they have all in common are some of the characteristics we're going to be talking about of a superstar on today's interview. Some of the qualities that we're going to be exposing on this interview today with two of our guests. We're going to be talking a lot about best practices of some of the top agents in the country. Well, those are certainly the best practices that superstars learned to have years ago. And something else they all have in common is, for the most part, they're all focusing on some aspect of short sales or REOs. So depending on your market, that could be very well the best opportunity you have. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now that it's about time. So again, this is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University, and this is the Superstar interview. Now, the Superstar interview really is one of three things, and sometimes, frankly, it's more than one of three things. It's a focus on really what it is that you as a real estate professional need now. So sometimes Julie and I will choose a author. Maybe it's someone who just wrote a book that directly is about real estate, or maybe somebody who wrote a book that will be influential on your real estate career. We've interviewed economists, we've interviewed money management people, we've interviewed people about all kinds of different topics. And again, listen to the past Superstar interviews at realestateinsidernews.com. Other times what we'll do is Julie and I will present information that we know that all of you need based on that week's feedback from our customer service staff. They'll tell us that, hey, Tim and Julie, these guys need extra help right now with motivation. And so on Friday, what Julie and I will do is we'll set aside the hour and we'll focus on motivating you. So really, those are fun calls. We always get great feedback on those. And then probably my favorite Superstar interviews are like the ones we're doing today, where I get to interview not one, but two really great people, folks that I know, if you pay attention and if you listen intensely, are going to have a lot of really powerful things to say that will be directly influential on your real estate career, not just now, but forever into the future. So without any further delay, I'm going to introduce our good friend, Monica Reynolds. Monica, are you there?
Good morning.
Okay, great. And so, Monica, why don't you go ahead and do a brief introduction of yourself, and then I'll introduce Nathan.
I've been in real estate about 32 years. Currently, I run the Chris Heller team in San Diego, and so far this year we've done 165 transactions, and so our goal is 200, so we got a lot of work to do left.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is an actual improvement over the previous year, correct?
Correct, it is.
And I think probably the biggest reason for the actual improvement, and it's like quite a bit of an improvement. It's like so far, if I remember correctly, 30 or 40 units more than last year. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, just about. Correct.
Yeah. I wonder if that's somebody's influence on the real estate team. You never know, right?
Well, I don't know. I've been here a year, so maybe, huh?
Maybe, huh?
But it was great because Chris has got great systems. Of course, I had coached Chris for like 7 years, so I knew all the systems that he had in here. So it worked out pretty good, and I knew all the people, and so it's a great match for both of us. But it's a lot of hard work. This is a lot of hard work.
Well, I'm sure. And I'm sure part of the added success this year is from being involved with the Dave Ramsey's organization. So from the Dave Ramsey organization, Mr. Nathan Mankin. Nathan, welcome to the call.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Did I get your last name correctly?
Yes, Mankin. That's correct.
All right, perfect. So why don't you do a little brief introduction on yourself, and Nathan, if you don't mind, I'll give you the floor, as it were, and you can kind of describe a little bit about, believe it or not, I'm sure there's some folks on the call that don't know who Dave Ramsey is, even though we've talked about him at Harris Real Estate University before, and we've actually featured some articles about him on money management, certainly. Can you just do a brief introduction on yourself and maybe just fill in the maybe 2 or 3 people that are listening now and on replay that don't know who Dave Ramsey is?
Sure, no problem. Basically, I've listened to Dave for a long time. I started in the mid to late 1990s, and I was in college back then and working part-time at a local interior design company, and would be in the trucks and listen around and listen to Dave, and just fell in love with his advice and fell in love with his passion. And I got married in 2002, and as a wedding present, we received a Financial Peace University. This is Dave's 13-week course on financial peace, and I received that as a wedding present, and my wife and I went through the course, and back then they hosted the course in Dave's office here in Nashville, Tennessee. And we just sat through that course and just even more just fell in love with what Dave was doing, and it was something that we already practiced in our in our short marriage, and something that we believed in strongly. And so it was just a kind of a kindred spirit that we had already thought. And walking in the lobby one day, they were posting job opportunities, and I said, you know what, I'd love to work for a guy like this. And this was about 9 years ago, 2002. Came on board, and as I say, the rest is history. At that point, there was about 60 of us here in the office. We now have just over 300, about 320 team members that we work with on a daily basis. And it's just been a great blessing for me and my family. And Dave, actually, to give you a quick about Dave, he's a nationally syndicated radio host that specializes in financial peace and financial freedom and financial advice. Lately, he's been talking a lot about small business. He has a new book out called HREU Leadership that basically describes how he got his start from a card table in his living room 25 years ago to where he is today. And so that's kind of a new phase that we've moved into lately. But mostly what we talk about is financial peace on an individual level, trying to get someone from their depths and despair up to financial freedom. And so it's been a very big adventure, and we do a lot of things associated with that. Like I said, the number one thing is, of course, the radio show. Dave is one of the largest nationally syndicated radio hosts in the country. He has 500 affiliates nationwide. He also, like I said, has this new book. It just hit number one on the New York Times bestseller. So not only is he a great radio host, but he's a great author and a great team leader. And like I said, if you don't know about Dave Ramsey, you definitely need to log on to DaveRamsey.com, find out a little bit about what we do.
Well, another plug for Dave. I think he's probably one of the best voices to be tuning into right now if you're trying to discover your own financial freedom. I mean, Dave Ramsey says things about money that for a long time, let's just be honest, were out of fashion. I was listening, actually, in preparing for this call, I was gathering notes on Dave and looking for some videos on YouTube or whatever, and it was kind of interesting. I found a really great video that wasn't even that old. And, well, if you like the direct speaking style that you get at Harris Real Estate University, you're going to love Dave Ramsey. But the other thing is that, Dave has such practical, fundamental advice. And he says, basically, if you listen to your grandmother and maybe your great-grandmother, the type of advice she'd give you is very similar to the advice he's giving everyone nowadays. And it's interesting that advice is so dearly needed. Like, folks are still questioning whether or not they should pay their house off and things of that nature. And so Dave really, I think, for a lot of people, brings sanity back to money. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about his message. It's simplistic in that everyone can do it. But it's in a lot of ways, I think it really gives people a very clear path and kind of cuts through a lot of the BS a lot of us have grown to believe from, I think, as a result of a lot of consumerism and a lot of other behaviors. I'll say that probably encapsulates it the best. And you also mentioned Dave's radio show, and I think that's how a lot of people have come in contact with Dave. So that rolls in perfectly to what we're talking about today as far as the ELP program, and that's something that Monica's involved in, and I know hundreds of other students of Harris Real Estate University are involved in currently or want to be involved in. So Nathan, can you briefly tell us about what the ELP program is, and then Monica maybe back it up and say how it actually works practically on the streets?
Sure. Basically, the ELP, what it stands for is Endorsed Local Providers. Now, these are people that we screen very carefully. We look for a few certain things. The number one thing we look for is what we call heart of a teacher. It's got to be somebody who's going to take a lead that we can send them and walk them through the situation. They got to be able to put the customer over the commission. This is not some, they're definitely going to make money, as Monica is a great example of that. They're definitely going to make money in this program. But number one, we're looking for people to help our customers get to that next level of financial freedom. And obviously in real estate, your home is your most people's number one investment, number one purchase. And so it's such a big part, such a big piece of this puzzle of financial freedom that we really take this very seriously. Now, we're also looking for people that are great at real estate. We don't want someone that's basically training on our leads. We want someone that knows what they're doing, that has been around for a long time. I mean, really, in all honesty, Monica Reynolds is the perfect example of what we are looking for in an ELP.
Well, Monica's been hearing that she's the perfect example all the
I like that. I like that. Let's keep talking about Monica Reynolds. That's great.
Well, but I mean, so Monica, describe to them how this ELP program works from an agent's perspective.
Well,
and then we can maybe,
first of all, I wanted to go back to one thing in that Dave Ramsey's book, EntreLeader, right now is probably one of the very, very best business books I've ever read. We're all great entrepreneurs, but we're not great leaders as real estate agents, and you have to combine the two. So get that book today. That's number one. And then number two on this is that you've got to get congruent with Dave Ramsey's lingo. If you were to go out on an appointment from a great, unbelievable client from Dave Ramsey, these people, have their stuff together. They're not upside down normally. They've got money in the bank. Sometimes their houses are paid for. Always their cars are paid for when you go on the Dave Ramsey philosophy. I mean, they're unbelievable, some of these clients. And they're very, very methodical and thoughtful about their money. They respect the dollar. They don't have any crazy financial problems normally. And that's just a given. So first of all, the client's great, but you got to learn how to speak the lingo. So you've got to get immersed into listening to Dave's radio show. That's when I first got introduced, and I thought, hey, this guy's really good. And I introduced him to all my kids, and, they're all on the program, and they love it. It's like getting your life back. And so one of the other things, it's such a great tool to give to other clients that are struggling. Anyone that, is in a short sale with us or really struggling, we give this stuff out to them and say, here, this is Money Makeover. This is a great opportunity. I mean, Dave, Dave's story, he went bankrupt, right, Nathan?
Yes.
And so this is the epitome of making all the wrong mistakes. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes in construction, real estate kind of investments and just got caught up in it. But now his life is so congruent with the right message. So with that said, you got to know this stuff, and you got to know exactly who Dave Ramsey is. And if anything, it's going to create a life for you of peace. I mean, it's so peaceful not to have to worry about bills. Well, so with that said, when we get a lead, our first system is that we absolutely contact that client immediately. If we get a lead and it's 9:30 at night, we're calling that person at 9:30. Now, we do cut it off probably about 10 because we're not looking on the web at that point or watching our emails or anything, but we're pretty congruent, and I know Nathan would say to that, is that we are like Johnny on the spot. Usually it's not, I mean, it's so common that everyone always says to me, wow, that was quick. I mean, we got a buyer lead on Sunday, like at 4 o'clock, and at 4:01, I'm calling her, and she goes, oh my gosh, she said, I can't believe you're calling me this fast. And I go, absolutely. We're trained by Dave Ramsey to be the best.
Well, so
that's kind of, our tagline, and that we, Dave asked that we call you, and, we're his preferred realtor in the area, and then tell us a little bit, and we go through our scripts of what you're planning on doing. And then what's great is that these guys, like I said, are very clear what they want to do, and they're not what I call crazy people. They're very, they're great. They're educated. They're normal.
Well, Monica, let me
run into those clients sometimes.
Monica, let me jump in here real quick. So you said 3 or 4 things there. I really want to pull out so people can really pay attention. First of all, when these are leads that the agents are getting are essentially being given an opportunity to work with, and these guys are, I'd say probably Nathan, 9 times out of 10 existing Dave Ramsey clients, but not just clients. These are people that have been part of one of the programs, correct?
Yes, correct.
So these guys are coming to you, agents, as essentially having their acts together. Financially, they're very level-headed.
They're savvy too.
Monica was very, very clear on learning the parlance. So if you're going to learn how to list REOs today, and you're going to call up a bank, and you're going to say, I'm looking for listings, right? They're not going to take you seriously because you're not using the right words, right? In the REO world, a listing is an asset. So you have to know what to say, and the same is true when you're working with Dave Ramsey's folks. They're very disciplined, they're very focused for the most part, and you need to be too, by the way. So learning to speak the language, to Monica's point, will also, along the way, help you personally with your own finances. So when you get these leads, Monica then touched on something else that actually Nathan and I talked about a couple times last week prior to this call. The most important thing, and by the way, this isn't just true for Dave Ramsey leads as an ELP, but this is also true for every aspect of your real estate business, is fast lead follow-up. So fast lead follow-up is definitely the key. But Nathan, let me jump in here. From your experience, from talking with agents every day and deciding who's going to be an ELP and who's not going to be an ELP, how does an agent become an ELP?
Very simple, really. Monica hit the nail on the head. You've got to have some idea of what we teach. That's really kind of number one. We want someone, and really, if you listen to what we teach and you agree with what we teach, then you're going to be living those principles, and you're going to forward that on to your clients. And so that's really what we're looking for. We're not really looking. You don't have to be a raving Dave fan, but if you agree with those principles, and of course it does help to be a fan, but if you agree with those principles and you live by those yourself, you're going to automatically connect with these, just as she was stating. But basically, how you become a Dave Ramsey ELP is the first step. We actually have a link set up for your agents right now. Actually, you go to daveramsey.com/Harris University.
It's actually on the webinar, too. Nathan, it's on the webinar. Good. So if you guys just want to hit that button, you'll go right to their page that they made for us. And just so everyone's clear, because we always like to, make everything transparent here at Harris Real Estate University, we're not getting any money or nobody's paying us any commissions or anything. We're just doing this strictly as a service, because I know that those of you who get selected, because not all of you will be, to be a Dave Ramsey ELP are really going to be happy with the experience. Just listen to Monica. So go ahead. They click the button, and then what happens?
Once they click that button, like I said, it takes them to our application. You have to fill out an application. That's the first step. It's very simple. It's 7 questions, very easy. Just kind of what is your history in real estate? What is your history with Dave Ramsey? Kind of the coverage area you have. And then number 2, we get those applications, and the first thing I always do is I always check the coverage area, make sure there's availability. The way we do our systems is we have up to 3 agents per zip code. We do everything based on zip code. So we have up to 3 per zip code. We never have more than 3. So that way, if you come in, there's 2 ways not to get selected. 1, we don't think you're a good fit. 2, there just may not be room at that time. And there's a few cities across the country right now that we're full, but there are plenty that have open opportunities, some major markets that we're really needing and looking for help. But once they get that, the first thing I'll do is check for availability. Is a room in this city for this person? Once I do that, then I review their application, read over it, think, okay, is this someone that I think can fit well with what we teach? Is there something in this that I can pull out to say, okay, I can see where they have a heart of a teacher here, or I can see where they're doing a lot of transactions. That's a big thing for us. We want to make sure, like I said earlier, you're not practicing on our leads. We want someone that's been in the business for a long time, someone that's producing at a high level already, to make sure that they've seen everything. So when our leads come through and they have a question, they can answer every question or service them in any way that they need at that time. And then the third thing we do is we actually set up a phone call, and we do an interview over the phone. And I'll ask you more questions, dig into that process, and try to hear anything there that may give me a red flag, or just make sure from that point that I really feel like that you're going to be a good fit for what we believe in and what we teach. And then the final thing we do is we do a 90-day trial, and we do that with everyone. We do that here in our company. Anytime we hire a new team member in our company, they're on a 90-day system, and we do that just because sometimes when you get into something, you don't know exactly what it is, and so you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of that, and then that gives us, too, that once we get in the systems and they actually start doing the work, we can say, you can say all you want. Interviews are one thing. You can tell people exactly what you want them to hear. I mean, we do deal with salespeople every day, so they can sell you on whatever, but until they get in the field and we get reviews from our customers, then we can really get a good idea of how they're treating our customers and if they are portraying the Dave Ramsey philosophies. And so we do that 90-day trial, and then if all of that goes through well, then you become an ELP.
All right, perfect. So from the consumer standpoint, they're finding the ELPs, the local area experts, the realtors. They're finding them mostly through the website, right? So they go to Dave Ramsey's website, then they search out someone that Dave suggests as far as an ELP, and then the magic happens behind the scenes at Dave Ramsey HQ in Tennessee, and that's how basically the match is made, because there'll be people that are wanting to know if it's over the phone. It's basically all online and all over email, correct?
It's all online, yes. Basically what happens is someone that's heard Dave on the radio or read the book or been through the course, they go to our website and they fill out an application. And we actually have a 3-page application become a lead through our system. Like Monica said, we try to make sure as strong as we can that we have a great lead. And, and so that's why we do that 3-page application, because by the time we figure if you fill out 3 pages, then you're serious about real estate or you're serious about getting help. And so once they fill out that application, our system, it's all done in real time. We have a great web team here. It's probably the largest department we have in our whole company. And once they've hit that submit button, our system automatically scans that zip code in real time, emails them, so that way Monica can call that lead within 1 minute. That's how that is done. And you receive that email right away. And so it's all done, like I said, over the web. Everything's done just in all real time, and it's a very, very fast process.
So we're going to get back to best practices in a second, but we have a few questions coming in. So someone from Boise, Idaho, Brad asked, is there a minimum experience? Like, does someone have to have been a realtor for a certain amount of time? Is there any general rule with that?
Yes, we kind of our minimum, 10 years is preferable. We will do 5 if they are a very high producer. After 5 years, we'll go down to 5 years. But we prefer 10 years. But anywhere in that range is we will do.
So you're definitely looking for somebody that's proven themselves, proven their ability to actually sell real estate, which leads me to my next question, which I'm sure everyone listening now and in replay will be happy to hear. And Nathan, and Monica knows this, but there are literally dozens of companies out there now, from the big ones like Zillow all the way down to small ones that are essentially trying to sell leads to realtors. That's the essence of what they do. And for the most part, they do a decent job. But what I like best about becoming an ELP, and also about some of the other programs out there that we featured here at HREU, is the fact that you guys get paid when the agent gets paid. And I think personally that is if you're going to be getting referrals and you're going to be paying for them, you might as well make it so that you only have to pay for them once the lead closes, and that's how you guys work at the Ramsey organization, correct?
Exactly. We have no fees associated with our leads whatsoever unless you close on one of the leads we send you. And it's even further than that. Dave's a huge commission-based guy. He jokes that if he could figure out to get the receptionist on commission, he would do that. I mean, he lives for commission. And, I actually left this out earlier. I don't know if a lot of your listeners know this, but Dave actually got his start in real estate. He got his license at 18, and Monica mentioned it, but he had sold real estate all the way up to his late 20s, gotten a little trouble doing that, but Dave actually loves real estate. This is one of his favorite departments in our company due to that fact, and so just to have that background. But yeah, you're right. We actually only charge if you close on one of the properties we send you. Matter of fact, I get paid only if you close on that. So I have a vested interest that you do well. That's why I love Monica.
So let me just share one thing though. These kind of leads are not like a Zillow lead. They're not like a Realtor.com lead. These guys filled out a 3-page questionnaire, came through the Dave Ramsey website, know the Dave Ramsey philosophies, probably living, breathing, eating them. So these leads are really good leads. And it's
beyond what a typical lead is.
Excited to talk to us because we are Dave Ramsey's preferred realtor.
Monica, when you said that a few times, and I know that's really important, how do you emphasize that when you're calling someone back? Give us an example, which, by the way, guys, the secret sauce to being successful, as Monica's going to talk about now, is the fast lead follow-up. Monica, what is fast lead follow-up for you? When you get a Ramsey lead or any kind of lead, how long does it take you to follow up with them? 1 minute
to 2 minutes. And, it's just like it's that fast if I'm out of the office and somebody else is watching my email for me.
So
we're returning that call immediately because, there are 2 other agents in our marketplace that also gets the leads too. So, we have to be fast and we have to present quickly why, we would like to meet with them and why they should choose us. So we're on top of that right away. And one of the ways we do that is the response time. Because unfortunately, I hope this is okay, Nathan, but occasionally sometimes we hear after we have the appointment, another agent called us 2 days later. I went, really? Really? And so that's why we got chosen, because we're on top of it. So all customers, when they put that information in and that pops up, they're thinking real estate right then. They're not thinking it's 6 hours later. They're having dinner, out with their kids, doing whatever. I don't want to interrupt them then. I want to interrupt them when they're thinking real estate right now. So that's the key thing. And then we always mention Dave's names as many times as we can. And, and I always tell them, boy, Dave's program is absolutely great. Have you listened to Money Makeover? I have. It's the best, and, blah, blah, blah. So we get into all that stuff. So I build a rapport bridge right to them that I'm congruent with what they're thinking.
Well, and that's really important, too, because that's where they're coming from. And I imagine that's another little secret element. Well, if you want to call it a secret, we're here talking about it in front of, hundreds of people this morning. But it's fast lead follow-up, and then it's building the bridge between where their thinking is as far as following Dave, and you are now proving that you do as well. So they're feeling very comfortable with you. And Monica, it is an excellent point. These aren't just leads. These guys have been through the gauntlet as far as, it's kind of funny. They require the lead to be more qualified than the realtor getting the lead, So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Well, of course, as an ELP, you have to prove yourself every single day. So, Monica, when you call somebody back, when you're getting at that lead and you're calling them back within 1 minute, what are you saying to them? How does that conversation go?
Well, I always know if it's a seller or buyer. And I'll say, good afternoon, Tim. This is Monica Reynolds. I'm Dave Ramsey's ELP for the area. Do you have a couple of moments? I see that you went through the website, and I'm here to answer a lot of your questions.
And so what types of questions will they ask you?
They'll just say, they'll tell me that we're thinking about selling our house, and then I'll go right into the script. Great. How long have you lived in your home? Tell me about what's important about moving. How soon, what kind of a time frame are you looking at to move? When did you purchase your home is always a key thing, in this market to figure out, if they're close to, break even or what. And so those are just, the basic questions in the regular scripts. But the key thing is that, I am upbeat, I'm friendly, I'm asking for permission. Is this a good time to ask you a few questions? If not, I can call you back at a more convenient time. So I'm just Johnny on the spot, but I have my questions ready to go. And then my goal, of course, is to set an appointment, figure out, exactly what their needs are. We've got a client coming in today at 2 o'clock, and all this stuff gets recorded on the website, so Nathan doesn't have to check in with us. He just looks at the website, and we constantly are updating the website. They have this wonderful, easy website that's so great. And we've got a client coming in at 2 o'clock. She's a buyer. She doesn't want to buy till probably next summer. But she's a great buyer. She's a school teacher. She's methodical. She's analytical. She wants to start the process. So I've got the lender coming in. I've got a buyer package ready for her. We're going to show her some properties online, and we're going to start the process. But she's not anything immediate. But so that's the other thing about the clients. They are great clients, and sometimes these are the clients that you want to follow up with no matter what, because they're going to do something.
So, Monica, be more specific. Like, realtors listening to this call right now, I'm sure every single one of them are going to be clicking that link on the webinar. And guys, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you do that, because they are actively looking for ELPs in different parts of the country. And clearly, this is a huge opportunity. All of our top producing realtors are coaching students, our graduate coaching students. We're encouraging all of them to participate in this program. We love everything about it. There's really no downside from the agent's perspective. So definitely click that button. It doesn't cost you anything. See if you will be accepted if they're looking for someone in your territory. So, Monica, you've obviously been in the real estate space forever. When you're dealing with a normal buyer, or you're coaching a realtor on how to deal with a normal buyer, how different are these ELP leads? How much more tuned in and sophisticated are these guys? Because you know as well as I do, those words are going to intimidate your average realtor.
Yeah, okay, so on a 1 to 10, a Dave Ramsey buyer, they're a 12. Okay, they're military people. We get a lot of military people that have their, everything, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, to school teachers, to business people, to a lot of retired people in this area, of course, too, that listen to Dave Ramsey every night. And so, they're figuring out things like one couple came in that was a Dave Ramsey lead, and they just felt that they needed to downsize at this time and really enjoy life a little bit more, and they didn't need this big house, and they had a lot of equity, and they've been listening to Dave on the show, and figured out a few things. And one of my clients even talked to Dave on a show, and I mean, she thought she was talking to the heavens. I mean, she was so excited. So I mean, they are really, I mean, I can't on a buyer scale, they are so good. And these are the people that, you know, even though buyers take some time, you're never going to throw away a Dave Ramsey buyer lead. And we get it all the time where, you know, all of a sudden we convert somebody that we had been emailing and talking to, and now they're ready and they're loyal. They want to work with us too because we have the same philosophy, and they feel safe with us, and they feel they're going to be treated right and professionally, and they're going to get the best information because of our foundation with Dave Ramsey.
So tell us about the seller leads. I think the program really focuses on primarily in this market on generating buyer leads, but you do get quite a few seller leads.
We get more seller leads.
Oh, are you really? Interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us about a typical Ramsey seller lead.
Military person sometimes, people retiring, single gals. I mean, it's everybody. It's all walks of life. A mechanic, a banker. I mean, everybody. I mean, the information from Dave Ramsey is just congruent common sense. And if no one's listened to Money Makeover, it's one of the best things you'll ever do for yourself. It's a fun tape to listen to, or CD, and it's really great. But you gotta just know that it's all walks of life. There's not one type of person. We get a lot of people that have second homes here that listen to Dave Ramsey in Las Vegas or Dallas or whatever, and they have a second home here. So, you know, it's everybody.
And as far as we're talking about the fact that a lot of these leads come to you and they're much more serious, they're much more focused, they're much more further down the emotional and financial process towards actually accomplishing their goal. Is there anything else with regards to the nature of these leads that causes you to follow a different path than you? Because it sounds like they're cutting out a lot of the usual getting to know you and pre-qualifying stuff. It's almost like you're jumping further into the normal buyer-seller relationship that you would with a Dave Ramsey lead, which is huge. I mean, you're saving the whole, okay, do I want to work with Monica? Yes, I do, because she's associated with Dave. Am I qualified? Yes, I am. I've already been qualified. So these aren't just leads, as you've said, Monica. These are really almost, they're handing over a relationship to you. That's a significant difference than anything else I know about right now in real estate.
Absolutely. We've been endorsed by Dave Ramsey, and that gives us such a leg up. It's a huge leg up. However, I still do what I call the dog and pony show, and I tell them about who we are and why we were selected and why are we so successful at selling homes. I really go through that so that between Dave's endorsement and then showing who we are, then it's done deal. We've got loyalty then.
That's really, I think that's important. The Ramsey organization selected us to work with you, and that you're really tying everything in that way. That's really powerful. Good points. All right, good. So, Nathan, back to you. As you were listening to Monica talking, I'm sure you were smiling because she's one of your top ELPs in the country right now, and I'm sure you're thinking that how do we bottle Monica and make all the other ELPs have this level of mindset and skill. But can you share with us any other best practices you can think of from your ELPs across the country, the guys that are really doing well?
Yes, you're right. But the thing is that Monica was saying is, yes, she is endorsed by Dave Ramsey, but there are also others in her area. We have, you can't take this as saying, I am the endorsed. There are other people just as qualified as you in that same market, so you still have to be very, very aggressive, and you still have to do what Monica was saying, call quickly. You have to tell them how good you are, basically, is what you're doing, like she said, and because you're competing against people that are very similar in the marketplace as you, depending on, because, that's what we go for. We go for the top in each market, and so you're not competing against some guy that just came out of school and is just getting into real estate. It's not that. So you still have to be on your A game.
And I'm not their only appointment. They will interview the other two ELPs in the area.
Yeah, we actually coach
side,
that.
Right, Monica?
What's
Monica,
that?
do they screen mostly on the seller side, or on the buyer side? Do they do the same thing? Will they actually go and talk with the other ELPs on, whether they're a buyer or a seller?
I go up all the time when I go on a listing appointment. They've got the other two or at least one other ELP scheduled to come in.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, we actually coach that. We the reason we do the 3 LPs is two main reasons. One, Dave has always taught from the very beginning, anytime you're spending a large amount of money or you're making a large purchase, you must interview more than one person. And that's if you're buying something, if you're selling something, whatever the case may be. And so that's the main reason we have that competition. We want our leads to have a choice so they can go in. And, if you're buying a home, you're going to be spending a lot of time with this person. So you want somebody that you can be comfortable with, that you know is going to look out for your best interest. It could be as simple as, preferring a man versus a woman or just a personality conflict or whatever the case may be. But that's the main reason we do that competition. And number two, like Monica stated, she knows that someone else is calling. And if she's not the first one, her chances of securing that lead shrink significantly. Now, she can go in there and get another interview and try to persuade them to it. But if you're number one, NAR states 80% of the leads go with the number one person they talk to, and no different with our leads. I mean, it's something about having that. Dave's always joked the hardest credit card he ever gets people to cut up is the very first one they ever got. And it's just something about having that first one is just something special. And so that is the number one key to be successful in our program is being the first one to call quickly within minutes. We actually track that. We have a lot of tracking checks and balances we do. We hold our ELPs to a very high accountability, and we actually track how quick they contact those leads. And it's no-brainer. The ones that are within the hour, especially within the minutes, are going to be the ones that are winning in that market. To be surprised, I still can't believe that we do this, but some of them will have an average of 12 to 14 hours, and they do nothing. They have no sales in our program. Very few are successful with doing that, unless they're maybe the only one in a small-town market or something like that. But if you're competing, you have to call quickly. But we track that, and so I can hold Monica accountable. Anytime we have a relationship call, we try to touch base with our agents about every 90 days. So I'll call her and just check in, see how things are going, and I'll say, hey, your contact time has dropped. What's going on? And so we keep you accountable on that. Number two is calling often, and that's just about as important as the other. You have to call these people over and over again. A lot of our, I'll get a call and I'll say, hey, how many times did you call that lead before you quit? And they'll say 2. I'm like, really?
Terrible.
You mean 2 in the first day or 2 overall? And what we suggest is until you've called at least 15 times, and we say 15 times like maybe in the first 60 to 90 days, if you've called that many times, then we'll talk about you could drop that lead. But until then, you need to be calling that person. So we hold them to a very high accountability on that as well. We suggest call. I mean, you've got to get in touch with these people. And like Micah said, they could be they were at dinner at the time, or they're picking up their kids from school. I don't answer my cell phone all the time. I mean, you may be busy in some situation, but you have to continue to call. So we stress, as my position as an advisor with our EOP program, we suggest call quickly as fast as you can get on that phone call, and 2, continue to call until you get in touch with that person. If they tell you, leave me alone, we don't want to deal with you, then that's what we want to hear, other than we didn't get in contact with them. We'd rather you at least get a no than not get anything at all. And so that's our 2 main focuses that we focus with our agents, is to call quickly and to call often.
Well, so you just said something very interesting, and Monica, you can kind of back me up on this with your coaching background. Most realtors will, if someone emails them, they'll email them back once, and that will be the extent of it. They never follow up beyond that, because the realtors don't want to be perceived as being too pushy or whatever other, things they've set up in their mind as far as like what aggressive lead follow-up means. But so help me explain to all the future and current ELPs out there, and obviously all the other realtors listening, exactly the importance of just doing exactly what Nathan said, continuing to follow up.
I have a very simple thing that I would say to anyone if I was training, or just to to myself, to the team, whatever, and that is that when you use the word customer service, and you always leave a message, in my opinion, with the Dave Ramsey leads, especially. In any good leads, you always leave a message and just say, as part of my customer service, Tim, it's Monica Reynolds. I'm just following up. I wanted to make sure you got the information. I know you went through the Dave Ramsey website, and we have excellent customer service. Please call me back. I'd love to hear back from you today if it's possible. And then I keep calling, I keep calling them. I mean, I don't give up. And then I never apologize for my customer service.
Well, so the thing that's interesting, Monica, is that agents will tell themselves, well, I don't want to be that aggressive because somehow that lead will perceive me in some bad light.
Well, then they have no customer service. I don't believe in aggressive. I believe in customer service.
Well, but the reality of it's just the opposite, right? I mean, the reality is that in this market, in this economy, really, buyers and sellers are going to perceive somebody who has good follow-through as in a positive light, not a negative light, and that's a major emotional.
So, and here's one mindset.
Hurdle.
Watch this mindset. It's not their job to call me back. It's not their job. My job is to call them. I don't expect a call back. If I get one, bonus. See the mindset?
It's your job to keep on looking for them, basically, is what you're saying.
I don't have the mindset that they should call me back. I've left 3 messages. No, they shouldn't. It's not their job to call you back. Right. Your job is to find them.
Good. That's a really valid point. So, Nathan, anything else come to mind as Monica was talking? I mean, obviously, this interview will hopefully be beneficial to current and future ELPs. Anything else you want to put out there? As I know Monica has an appointment coming up. Is there anything else you want to mention that's really crucial that people understand about being involved with the Dave Ramsey organization?
Yeah, Monica hit the nail right on the head as far as customer service. If you listen to Dave on the radio for 10 minutes, you're going to hear the term customer service. We believe wholeheartedly in that. Dave basically has empowered our whole team that if you have something that needs to be done, you do it. There's a little book called QBQ that we live by, and it's almost become a catchphrase here in our office that says, you need to QBQ that. Basically, what it's saying is it's not your job, even if it's not on your KRA to do, it is your job because you're part of this team. And that's what she's saying is it's not about pestering anybody. It's about showing great customer service. We tell our agents all the time, say, really, you got to change your mindset. If this lead, if you're going to call them 15 times to secure their business, do you think you're going to be persistent in selling their home? Well, yeah, of course you are. I mean, and that's what we're trying to get them to think about is these leads. They're asking for customer service because they love Dave Ramsey. They know what he preaches, and if you call our leads once or twice and you never call back, then they just perceive that, well, you obviously don't know anything about Dave. You don't know what he teaches. And it's not a pestering thing at all. It's actually doing what Monica said, being a servant to what they're doing. And that's where our heart of a teacher comes in, is we want someone that's a teacher that's going to walk them through that process. And how can you do that if you actually don't get them on the phone? And so it is totally customer service, and that's what we preach here. And you just got to think of it in that mindset of you are serving this client, and that's a great point, Monica. I never even thought about that. It's not there. I hear that all the time when I talk to my agents. They're like, well, if I called twice, they should have called me back. Why shouldn't they call? That's a great point. I'm going to use that from now on, if you don't mind, Monica. That's great.
Go ahead.
But it's not their job.
Think about that. It's not the customer's job.
That's right.
It's not their job.
That's great. But no, that is really what this boils down to, is if you want to be a good ELP, you have to do the things to secure that business as far as calling often, calling quickly, serving our leads. And that makes the perfect ELPs and someone that like I said, has a like-mindedness of Dave Ramsey. And those are the ones that are very, very successful. And Monica can attest there is actually a big bonus in this, and you can make a lot of money doing it. And you can do it by helping people, getting to them to that next level of financial peace, financial freedom. And that's what we're all about as a company. We actually have several different departments in this company, do very different things, from working with children, working to adults, working with schools and churches, and just we do a bunch of different things. But we all have one thing in common, and that is to help people build wealth and get out of debt. And so, and this is a major piece to that puzzle. And so I appreciate the opportunity of doing this. And but yeah, she is totally right as far as the customer service is number one.
Monica, this is kind of interesting, and I really like what Nathan just said. We're going to start wrapping this up, but I think it's important that folks understand the approach that you take to selling houses nowadays is different than maybe the approach you would have taken 5 years ago, especially when you're dealing with someone who's been financially trained by Dave Ramsey, right? So their motivation and their way of thinking is completely different than, say, for example, the typical realtor. Being more specific, most realtors still are trying to sell around, it's a great time to buy, and it's not, whereas maybe they should be saying it's a great time to buy, maybe, depending on your situation. So answer these questions and determine whether or not it is a great time for you to buy. So, Monica, when you're selling real estate in a market like this, with your huge background in selling real estate and coaching, how much of people's mindsets, I guess is what I'm asking, changed about home ownership since the real estate crash?
I got to be really honest with you. It's still the American dream. But people are more cautious thanks to people like Dave Ramsey about, Dave Ramsey he was just probably jumping off the roof when people were buying homes with no money down. And so now the way it is, people have to have a down payment. They're excited. Home ownership is always going to be the American dream. And there's plenty of people out there who want to own a home. And what's great now with the way the lending is right now, I think it's great that we have rules that you have to have money down and money in the bank to cover the next 3 to 6 months of payments. I mean, what a great idea that is after what we've been through. What a debacle this is. And it's all because people bought homes with no money down and banks were greedy and blah, blah, blah. So, but here's the thing. People still want to buy. People still want to sell real estate. You just got to get in between them. It's a great market. There's so many agents that are doing so much better. I mean, we've done a bit better this year. I mean, it's just a matter of just paying attention to where the opportunities are.
That's really it. And that's the reason I love this program. And Nathan, I really appreciate your time today. And Dave, if you're listening now on live or in replay, thanks for being such a great financial role model for our country and allowing so many people to be okay with finding financial peace and understanding that it really does start with some very practical, learnable steps. So Nathan, again, if someone wants to get involved with Dave Ramsey from the getting their personal financials in perspective, what's the best way to start?
Basically, DaveRamsey.com has all of our tools. We have so many tools to help people out. As Monica mentioned, the Total Money Makeover is Dave's probably number one book. It's been out for 8 years now, and it's still hitting some of the top bestseller list. I mean, it is a wonderful tool. Financial Peace University is our 13-week class. That's basically how I heard about Dave Ramsey, was when I first took that class when I first got married. And it is a wonderful class. If you take that course and your life isn't changed, then there's some serious problems, because it covers everything. And I tell our agents all the time, a lot of our agents, they make high incomes. And I was like, I know you make high incomes, but if you take this course, I guarantee you'll find more money you didn't realize you had. I mean, it's such a neat course, and it can really, no matter where you are financially, it can take you to a next level. And those are the main things. But yeah, even if they're not interested in this program, even if people are not at the point yet to be involved in our program, you definitely need to get to our website, check out the books, check out the classes. We have online courses. We try to make it where anybody, no matter what their position, truck drivers is a big market for us, and they buy the versions you can listen to in your truck. I mean, we try to cater to we have military editions, we have corporate editions. I mean, we really try to get to everyone that we can, and this is a mission for Dave. I mean, it's his passion. He rubs that off on the rest of us. Like I said, I've been with him for 9 years now, and it's funny that you just absorb it. I mean, you just it comes from Dave, and he stresses it all the time, and you just absorb it, and you can't help but to live it and to teach it. And it's just such a wonderful thing that he does. And I just encourage all your agents, even if they're not interested in this program, get on the website, look around. We have so many tools that can help you succeed financially. And like Monica said, this Entree Leadership book is really shaking up the business world of America. I mean, it is back to the basics, just like the finances, back to the basics. Like I said, call people, call them back, make appointments, talk to a human. Just basic stuff that can really make you successful in business. And real estate agents, a lot of them now are becoming more than agents. They're actually running teams. And like Monica said, a lot of them are great agents or great entrepreneurs, have no idea how to run a team. And this book will help you do that. And so I definitely recommend getting that book if you're an agent and you have anybody that works for you right now.
Perfect. And Monica, if someone wants to send you and the Chris Heller team any business in lovely San Diego, how might they do that?
We cover the entire county, so 760-632-8408, or I'm easily to reach at Monica at Heller the Home Seller, with an H, Heller the Home Seller.
There you go. And so everyone that's listening on the webinar right now, you absolutely positively have to click that button and find out if you frankly can become an ELP. Just click the button that's right on the webinar. It'll take you over to the Ramsey page. Fill out the little brief survey that they ask you questions, and they'll follow up, and I bet you they'll follow up quick.
That's right.
Yeah. and determine whether or not there is availability in your area. Even if there isn't availability, Nathan, I'm assuming you keep some sort of wait list?
We do. I prospect myself. I keep it in there, and anytime we have an open slot, then I am definitely on the phone that day calling, trying to fill that position.
This is about one of the biggest no-brainers I've ever come across in all the interviews I've been doing, agents. I mean, you don't have to. There's no upfront fee. There's no per fee. Per lead fee. This is 100% great leads. Everything's, this is 100% something that all of you must be doing. Click that button on the webinar, whether you're listening to it now live or if you're listening to it in replay, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and click that button and see if you can become an ELP. So Nathan and Monica, I really want to thank both of you, and I really appreciate both of you taking the time today to be Harris Real Estate University superstars. So all of you listening now on a replay, again, absolutely positively get involved with the Ramsey organization, whether or not it's from being an ELP or just buying the books and listening to the DVDs, which Julie and I do as we're driving around the western part of the United States lately, doing a lot of in-office visits. We've been listening to a lot of the Ramsey stuff and really great coaching information. And I love the word that I kept on hearing throughout today's interview was the word peace and freedom. And that really is, at the end of the day, what really getting in control of your finances and your business if you're a real estate agent. It's really about peace and freedom. So if you resonated with those words and if you're feeling a certain way after today's interview, which I'm sure a lot of you are, get involved. Try to become an ELP. At the very least, go and pick up some of Dave's books. So guys, Nathan and Monica, thank you very much for being today's Harris Real Estate University superstars, and have a terrific weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.